Hey guys, Kev here. So there's been some very interesting news out in the tech world today. As at the Nasdaq stock market close, Meta Platforms, formerly known as Facebook, has lost a staggering 26% of its market share. That's a drop of 230 billion US dollars, and it's more than the size of the Greek economy. That's also the biggest cut in market value for any US company ever. So how does this affect Meta's largest shareholder, Mark Zuckerberg? Well, his personal wealth has now plunged about 31 billion US dollars. Why has this happened? And honestly, was it completely unexpected? Let's go into the reasons for the drop, and hopefully we'll get some answers there. So you first have to understand that Meta is first and foremost a advertising company. In fact, it generates about 97% of its income from advertising alone on its platforms. And in order to grow that revenue, they need more people to use their platforms and for longer periods of time so they can better understand the user's preferences and trends and then feed targeted ads to them so the user will make a purchase. In Meta's defense, most tech companies do this, including Google, YouTube, TikTok. So when Meta released their quarterly results today, it came as a shock to all investors. For a company that's been posting share gains every year, except for one, since 2012, today's report showed a concerning problem. Firstly, earnings for the December quarter had come in below market expectations by about 4.4%. And also, projected revenues for March quarter was also below analysts' expectations, with a possible drop versus projections of between 3.8 to 10%. Now, this in isolation probably wouldn't have resulted in a 26% drop in stock price. But what ultimately spooked the market was the fact that Facebook's growth in its user base have hit a ceiling. In fact, Facebook actually lost more than 500,000 users in the last 3 months of 2021. So you're asking the question, why is this happening? The short answer is competition. Facebook is experiencing competition from all sides, particularly from everyone's favorite viral app, TikTok. If you don't already know, TikTok is already taking the world by storm, and its user base is growing tremendously. It's estimated that TikTok grew its user base by 15% from 2020 to 2021. In fact, TikTok actually dethroned Google to be the world's most popular website in August 2021. Facebook has actually been very slow to identify the threat of TikTok, and TikTok was released in the West in 2016. Facebook didn't release its direct competition to TikTok, Facebook Reels, until September 2021. That's about 6 years after TikTok had launched in the West. Now, Reels is growing, but TikTok still has a massive lead on Facebook. And in addition, short form videos just don't do well for advertising for Facebook at this stage. And it's not just that. Facebook is also facing stiff competition by Alphabet's YouTube as well. A couple of days ago, when Alphabet had its earnings release, it showed that YouTube ad revenue jumped a whopping 25%. And whilst the earnings call didn't publish its user growth, it's expected that YouTube probably grew its user base by about 4.4% in 2021. And it's not just that either. When Apple recently changed its privacy measures in April 2021, it also proved a challenge to Meta. The new Apple changes require that apps receive user permission to track behavior across all their apps and websites. If a user opts out, the company can no longer track the user's data in the app. This means that the ads served by Facebook on iOS devices would no longer be targeted and successful. It pretty much meant that Meta would be operating with a blindfold. So, how did Alphabet, Google, and YouTube get around this problem? Simple. Alphabet already dominates search via Google and YouTube, and it also owns Android. This means that they don't necessarily need to track a user's behavior and can rely more on what's being searched on their platforms instead of what people's preferences are. I know that when I personally need to get something or want to look into something, I go to Google and I type in the search term, or I go to YouTube to find reviews on certain things. This ultimately means that Facebook's business model relies more on tracking people's behavior and preferences rather than having people's search term appear. Facebook is also facing ongoing regulatory scrutiny, which has negatively impacted its public perception. that's also not good for them as well, because it means that people associate Facebook with something negative or something that they shouldn't be using. Finally, and probably the nail in the coffin, is Meta's new mission, which is to build a metaverse. That is a virtual world for everyone to work and live in, to associate with, all that sort of stuff. If you don't understand it, think of the movie Ready Player One. It's essentially a movie about people preferring to live their lives in a virtual reality world rather than the real world. And in that movie, the real world literally degrades into slums, while the virtual reality world is like a glorious sort of oasis. And that sounds a bit terrifying, doesn't it? Well, that's what Mark Zuckerberg wants to build. And to build something like that, it doesn't happen immediately or even cheaply. First of all, the technology to fully immerse yourself doesn't exactly exist right now. I mean, we do have VR headsets, but they are quite bulky, they require sensors all around the room to track where you are, and it's essentially a far cry to what Meta is envisioning in the long term. And in order to build this technology, it takes a lot of time and money. It means that Meta's had to shift existing resources and talent within their Facebook divisions into their new reality labs for research and development for the metaverse. In fact, Meta has already spent 10 billion US dollars in 2021 just to get this thing going. For a company which is facing such stiff competitions from other platforms and also from the government, it's a very ballsy move for them to completely change their mantra and build essentially a new world called the metaverse. It's a massive gamble, and it's not going to pay dividends for a very long time, to be honest, if ever. A quote from Mark Zuckerberg himself puts this task into perspective. There's a lot of technical work to get this form factor and experience right. We have to fit hologram displays, projectors, batteries, radios, custom silicon chips, cameras, speakers, sensors to map the world around you, and more into glasses about 5 mm thick. Now, personally, I'm not sure I want to be stuck at home with a VR headset for hours at a time living in a digital world, whether it's working or whether it's for leisure. But I can see the utility for this, especially for people who can't physically leave the house, or those who might not be financially able to travel somewhere else. But at the same time, if you think it might be cheaper to escape from the real world and live in the metaverse, think again. Someone's just spent $450,000 US dollars, that is, in a different virtual reality universe, one that's been promoted by Snoop Dogg. And this $500,000 gives them a status to be Snoop Dogg's neighbor in effectively digital land, which is just zeros and ones. It's code. I don't know. It's early days and a very ballsy move by Mark Zuckerberg, but who knows? Maybe this is going to change the world. Maybe this is going to flop into nothingness. But at the end of the day, Facebook is not doing very well right now, whilst all the other social media platforms are killing it. So Mark Zuckerberg needs to think about the short-term future of this business and maybe put Meta on hold. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below about what you think about the situation facing Meta and what their end game could be. And also, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and also let me know what else I can do, what else I can talk about, how I can improve my videos. Alright, see ya!